5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate very much your generous invitation to be here tonight. You bear heavy responsibilities these days.
Welcome to Stock Legends Radio Show, seeking answers, opinions, and the inside scoop, putting you in the front seat on Wall Street.
In today's market,
This is breaking news. Where is it going next?
StockLegends.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Stock Legends Radio. Today we are doing a one-on-one interview with CEO Wilson Russell of North Star Electronics, ticker symbol NEIK. We've highlighted this stock. We think it has some great potential for future growth. Wilson, welcome to the Stock Legends Radio Show.
Well, thanks a lot, Justin.
Now, we want to take a quick look at your company, but first and foremost, before we do that, let's get a little bit of background of yourself and how you came into becoming the CEO of North Star Electronics and your past.
Well, I gather it's a relatively short interview, so I won't get into the full story. It'll take a while.
No problem.
So, just my academic background is I did, studies, master's degrees in infrared spectroscopy and physics, and also in a master's degree in ocean engineering, and then a doctorate in engineering physics. And then I moved on from being a university professor, went to the private sector, developed a lot of technologies and systems for the offshore oil and gas industry. And then I was responsible for the oil and gas industry for a few years in eastern Canada, and then decided to do some other things. So I started a company back in the 80s, developed an invention that I had. Then I did a joint venture with Bell Telephone, a subsidiary of Bell, to manufacture and market that system, and was doing a lot of work for Mobil Oil as a consultant to Mobil on a very large project, Hibernia, $8 billion capital project. Moved on from that to doing some other things like buying a technology from Honeywell, fiber optic technology, and developing a secure fiber optic modem for a U.S. government agency, and things like that. So then moved away from that area into doing international consulting, developing international strategic alliances with other countries, and did consulting work for the French Navy. And then back in the mid-90s, decided to start this company, North Star, and we started with sonar. That was basically the best area I saw. We had a lot of expertise in it, and we started this company to develop a commercial sonar system, and we did, and took obviously a lot of effort, a lot of energy, and we did it, and it was a very reliable, rugged system, and performed quite well.
So you started this company in the 90s. Was that 1990?
Mid-90s, yeah, around mid-90s. Yeah, that was the beginning of it, and then it took a while to mature as a company. It was more, I think, like the late 90s before I could say it was an operating company, around 99, 2000, around there. And we were manufacturing and marketing that system. And in the course of this, we came across Lockheed Martin, a division of Lockheed Martin, and won a contract from them to manufacture submarine command and control consoles. And that got us into the defense sector. That work went exceptionally well for us, and I think we did quite well. The Navy thought it was a very good job, and we moved on from there into other areas. So that was the genesis of the company.
Excellent. Now, when you first start a company, it's not an overnight success. It's not something that's like, hey, you know what, you're successful, you made it. I'm sure there's hills and valleys along the way. What roadblocks did you encounter transforming the company and your basically rise, not to grandeur, but your rise up in the sector and becoming public? What brought you the public route?
Well, I looked at this and said, it seemed to me at the time that our future was really with the large prime contractors such as Lockheed Martin and others, and that we probably would be wise to list on a public market, and the OTC bulletin board was the best choice for us then, so that's what we did. And the main reason for going public in the first place was to gain access to capital. To grow a company, obviously you need capital, and we had, I believe, probably raised as much as we could through private sources as a private company, and we reached a boundary on that, so we needed to go past it. So that's why we went public in the first place. And we did that in the year 2000.
Now, your current direction with the company, is that still in the sonar technologies? Why don't we get into the nuts and bolts of your current segment and what you are out marketing to companies acquiring contracts for?
Actually, Justin, if you don't mind, I'd like to go back and just talk a little bit about the situation we had back in the early 2000s. After 9/11, Lockheed Martin approached us, and they wanted some assistance in developing a underwater sonar protection system for aircraft carriers. And this was a system which would basically detect potential terrorist divers that were coming to lay explosives on the ship or do some other nasty things. We worked with them, we jointly developed a really good system. I think it was considered the best in the world at the time. And we were expecting this, and as was, I believe, Lockheed Martin, that this was going to be every ship there was out there in the military and also possibly in NATO. So there was quite a market, potentially at least, and we had visions of going to be a very large company based on this. So this attracted, this information and this what we were doing attracted strong interest from a couple of very serious people on Wall Street. They personally invested in our company, and they were going to provide support to help us get to the lofty heights that we were expecting. Then the Iraq War broke out, and the budget, as far as we understood, and we don't have any fact on this, but as far as we understood, the budget that the military had for these systems was used in the Iraq War, and consequently, the great promise of that intruder detection system didn't happen. We did sell a few systems to the U.S. Navy, but and not very many at all. So consequently, we had to reinvent ourselves. We went away, licked our wounds, and decided that we needed to become a different type of company, that we were not going to be subject in the future to things like that happening.
Exactly.
Where one day to the next, you find that you don't have the business that you thought you had. So we identified the aerospace and aerospace business as the very best one, because it is an extremely solid business. It doesn't have a lot of mercurial ups and downs on a year-to-year basis, and especially with defense. The commercial side has more of those swings than the defense side. And even if defense budgets are cut, the aerospace business is still extremely large. So we decided to come back primarily as an aerospace company. And that, as you can imagine, took a lot of effort. You start one day and decide you're going to do that, and then 3 years later you actually are.
Exactly.
And we got very lucky in a sense that we got there, and it took a lot of time and money and effort. We brought in new people who were excellent in their fields of work. We had to get new facilities. We had a lot of new quality programs, etc. And then we had to get the attention, of course, of the big guys. And we got lucky, as I said, in being able to get a first contract as quickly as we did. And that was in the fall of 2008. We won our first contract from Lockheed Martin Aeronautics to do work on the P-3 aircraft. And normally one would think that if you win a contract from Lockheed Martin Aeronautics and you're a small company, that people will be to pass to your door to put working capital in, to invest in the company. As it happened, this was almost the same, I think it was almost to the week that the bottom fell out of the economies in the United States and around the world, and the recession hit. So we didn't get the level of investment that we would have expected, and consequently, even though the contract grew and grew from small amount, originally $900,000, it grew to many, many millions, and that was a great thing. But we definitely were challenged over the last 2.5 years or so in bringing in the working capital that we need to do the contract. And we do them on one hand. On the other hand, there are two ways of doing things. One is you do them, the other way is you do them which maximize your profit. The latter wasn't available to us at the time.
And how are things changing now? We've got a new direction for the company. You've got a new niche. You've worked your way into the market. You're once again working with Lockheed Martin, which is very, very reputable. This new direction, what's the potential for future revenue and profits now as opposed to then?
Well, let me just give you a very quick rundown on what we do have at the moment. We're working on this P-3 program with Lockheed Martin Aeronautics. We also have a contract with another Lockheed division called MS2 in Manassas, Virginia, and that's to manufacture command and control consoles for submarine. That's a small contract that's growing. And we also have a contract, run a contract with L3 Communications, a division of L3 called L3 MAPS, MAPPS, in which we're manufacturing consoles for Navy patrol frigates. And so we have this work in hand, and it adds up to about $6 million, by the way. So we're doing this work, and the difference is, at this moment, we're finding for the first time in quite a long time that there's interest in us from potential investors. And this is definitely encouraging for us because we can see now the possibility of raising some serious working capital fairly soon, and then we can then carry out these contracts more efficiently than we've been able to in the past, maximize the gross margins that we get from them, and start working towards breaking even as a company. We have had losses, of course, and we still have the a bit of hangover from having reinvented ourselves and all the costs that went with that. However, as it currently stands, we have a plan to go forward, and in the future, in a fairly near future, we believe we could have a breakout first or second quarter in 2012, where we can probably have record revenues, if not to profitability, at least very close to it.
Now, this funding that you're speaking of, is that a private placement that you're talking of, and you're hoping that comes to shortly? I mean, can you put a time frame on that? Any insight on that?
I won't go into the details of the private placement. We do have one available at the moment, and we'll be putting the stages on that one in the next couple of days. So it will be available literally in the next couple of days for any investors interested. And it's a unit offering, price of a common share and a warrant. We will be raising anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million from this offering. And then in the new year, if we do what we believe we can do in terms of revenues and bottom line with our prospects of going forward, we intend to then raise some larger sums of money at obviously much higher stock. Then we go into some new exciting areas as well.
We've seen that in the past. Actually, we've seen your stock climb to some unbelievable heights in the past. The difference is now it seems like you really have the ground underneath you. Now, granted, these private placements go through, they're forward-looking. What will these new investments be used for in the company? I mean, are you going to use these primarily to be able to facilitate these contracts in current relationships?
Well, first and foremost, absolutely yes. The money will go initially for production and engineering and all the services that we provide in our current contracts. And that's paramount. That's our lifeblood. We have to do this, and we have to do it well. Then we also develop new business. We have a lot of new business on the horizon, and we need to go after it aggressively and pull that business in. And we also need to start looking beyond the next 2 or 3 months. We need to look to the future. We see that part of our future could well be strategic acquisitions. There are a couple of areas in particular where we see some real great promise. One is obviously in aerospace, which is our primary business at the moment. So there are some small private companies that are doing quite well. They've been around for a while. They're available for various reasons, not because their business is bad, but because their business is good. And the people who started the companies and own them are wanting to cash out and retire and that kind of thing. So we have an opportunity there to really go and look at one or more of these companies in the future, get the backing of a solid fund behind us, and I think that's going to make a big difference to how we grow. And then there are other areas as well. There's the sonar world, as I mentioned. We have an opportunity that we're looking at and considering as we speak with respect to a sonar business, and we may get involved with that. So the future, I think, could be pretty exciting in a lot of ways. And the other side of it, of course, is what we are doing ourselves, which is going after larger and larger contracts as we go into World 12.
The private placement or funding mixed with strategic acquisitions, I mean, that amounts to a rapid movement forward the company and an exciting time for the investors. I think it's safe to say that you guys have climbed a hill or two in your battle for success, and it seems like you really have the ground underneath underneath you and have some exciting things coming up here in the future. Now, obviously, you've been in business with North Star since the mid to late 90s. You have a lot of investors and the public community and everybody that's stood by you and backed you up. And do you have anything that you would like to present to the investors? Anything you'd like to say to them?
Well, one thing I'd like to mention is what you alluded to earlier, I think, the fact that we have had our ups and downs in some respects, one of which has been our stock price. Our stock price has gone to $1 on more than one occasion. Increases to $1 have usually come about because of a particular event. When we first announced a profitable quarter years ago, the stock just jumped to $1 just like that. CNBC did a 4 or 5 minute piece on us on their morning show. The stock went to $1. We had other events as well that caused the stock to go. And because we never had the sustainability in the past, the stock, of course, drifted down and went into the wilderness to reinvent ourselves there about 5 years ago. We didn't have very much to talk about, so we did not get out there into the public eye, and we basically left the public alone, and consequently the stock drifted down to where it is today. Well, now we believe we have something to talk about. Not just talk about, but to do. And for anybody out there looking at us, that's all we can ask them, is to look at us, evaluate us, see where our future is. I think the past is gone. No, there's no sense dwelling on the past. We've laid the groundwork, and that is from the past, of course. We've got a solid future that will happen. I'm certain will happen if we have the working capital to put into it. And so consequently, I can't recommend our company because I'm a little bit biased, but what I can say to you is that if we have the sufficient working capital in place, I believe you're going to see some sparks fly.
Sounds like that could be coming up short term here. Excellent opportunity to get into the stock at these levels. I mean, it's safe to say at these levels, you know, they have a lot of ceiling room to go as far as the cost per share price. You have some very exciting stuff going on. Anything that you'd like to say to your current investors that might be listening to the show today?
For one thing, to thank them for hanging with us so long. I mean, so we've had some investors who've been very patient with us and strong supporters. And, you know, God bless them because they have never, I don't think they've ever wavered. They've seen the challenges we have and have had, and to some extent, I guess we still have, but we are overcoming them. And I believe that that's the essence of it all, that people believe in us. I think we deserve to be believed in, and consequently, to our existing shareholders, I would say that we're doing everything we possibly can to give them strong shareholder value, and that I hope that one day, not too far away, they're going to be extremely happy with investing in us in the first place.
I agree, and it sounds like it could be in the very near future. Perfect entry for the stock. It's a great background on North Star Electronics and your history with the company. We want to thank you very much for coming on the show today. It's been exciting to have you on, Mr. Wilson Russell of North Star Electronics, and we want all of our investors listening to the show today to take a look at ticker symbol NEIK. Okay, that's NEIK. It can be found on the OTC, and the stock price right now is in my opinion, and of course why we highlighted the stock, ready to make a move. We like what we see in the technicals here. We do not give investment advice, so please do not take anything from the show and investment advice, and listen to the disclosure at the end of the show. Wilson, again, we want to thank you very much for coming on the radio show today, and we'd like to welcome you back and keep us up to date with any future progress that you have. You know, we're always a call away here.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks, and good to have you.
Okay.
All right.
The whispers are true. Games that are legendary. StockLegends.com.
All information posted by Stock Legends is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as an offer or solicitation to offer or buy or sell securities. By listening to this radio show or this poster or this video by Stock Legends, you are accepting sole responsibility for your own investment decisions. By reading messages, doing so in videos, or listening to the radio show, you acknowledge that the information hereunto contained within this message or video provided or radio show is for general opinionated discussion and for informational purposes only, therefore should not be considered to be complete, precise, accurate, or current investment advice. Be aware that internet persons, videos, and so on, not only on the original message board where this disclaimer was discovered or in this video show, but other message boards that is not limited to the originated video of the website, may be increasing or decreasing our share positions in security regardless of what they are saying or posting or construing on this radio show. It may be compensated in some way or form by a third-party investor in the company mentioned posted in this video or radio show. The non-affiliated third parties compensated may or may not have shares to liquidate, which could affect the stock price. Assume that any security mentioned is owned by Stock Legends and may be buying or selling, adding or subtracting away from the position that they have, regardless of anything said, inferred, construed, or referred to. Believe before or after starting company profile. Always do your own due diligence prior to making investment decisions. Never borrow money and buy penny stocks. Always remember penny stocks are very risky. You could possibly lose your wife, keys, house, and everything else comes along with it. Also, be aware that information provided concerning certain securities contains forward-looking statements that involve risks and uncertainties. As in any investment, never invest in a penny stock unless you can afford to lose your full or entire investment. We completely abide by the Fifth Amendment for this full entire show.